Caleb is 24 years old, my middle child, and he had a head injury when we were skiing in Colorado. He and his friend from A&M, they crossed skis. He went one direction, his friend went the other, and the direction Caleb went in was toward the trees.
Caleb's injury was a traumatic brain injury, what you call a closed head injury. I think there are different ways to measure severity of closed head injuries, and his was near death. Actually should have died. Should have died on the Flight for Life to the hospital and also on the operating table.
I was at the bottom of the mountain. We were going to actually meet that afternoon to ski together as a family, and Kurt and I had gone to get Sarah Kate out of ski school when I looked down at my cell phone and it was one of his friends. She said, "Caleb's been hurt," and our oldest son had had a broken arm on the mountains of Colorado before, so we were not at all concerned. And she said, they're life flighting him to Denver. And as I stood there, all I can tell you is it might as well have been total silence around me as I looked at the sky and saw a helicopter flying over. And there was a peace that just said, you got to trust in me. And that's because I'm a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, that I just heard that immediately, and it's where I knew that, peace and storm could coexist in the same moment.
So that was the start of it. Trauma ICU for 30 days, in a coma for 13 of those 30 days. Caleb, when he came out of trauma ICU and went to Tier Memorial, had no short-term memory. So what you would tell Caleb, he would not remember, within 2 minutes later. If you've ever seen the movie Groundhog Day or 50 First Dates, those movies, Caleb was like that on steroids. Just no short-term memory. Produced a lot of issues, behavior-wise. Caleb's was pretty severe. Behaviorally, we needed to find a different place to be able to treat him. So ultimately, he ended up here at Touchstone under the care of John, Dr. Cassidy's care.
In my recovery, I always felt like I was in a dream, like nothing was real, and I didn't really know what was going on. I would go to sleep and wake up the next day and start it all over again. But the biggest part was I felt like nothing was real and it was a dream. And I couldn't understand how this could happen, like how a loving God could essentially almost kill me. And but now I know why. I've realized that God's giving me this accident to bring His name glory, to share His name with others who've never heard of Him before.
In the very first meeting, it was a team that we met with. It wasn't one person trying to sell us on being here. It was a team. It helped us to realize there will be a plan. We're not just being brought to a place and there's no plan. You're just going to be housed here. There was a plan, and they were here to support us, to give us advice, whether we would receive it or not. Honestly, everything I tell you is mostly in hindsight because I didn't believe it in the beginning. But from the other end of it, I can, attest that their plan worked. Their plan worked well for us.
Looking at the other residents when we were here, it seemed to me that Touchstone looked at each one of those personally, right, and did what they needed to do. And that requires a facility to be able to understand that and have the resources, not only of the day-to-day caregiving, but the staff, when it comes to therapy and the clinicians and all the physicians that are working cooperatively and coordinatedly together to bring about that goal of recovery. We're a family that has a faith. That faith has been very much strengthened through this last 3 years, and especially during that first 6 months. We've seen God work in just amazing ways, and we don't have time to talk about that. I'd love to, but it's just, trust me, it's always been about a larger picture. I think one of the consistent things that he's always shown us, and I would say especially at Touchstone, is the level of care that we've received, the connection with caregivers, with the staff.
The staff at Touchstone were great. I loved all of them. They could probably tell you a million stories that I can't remember, but they just made you feel like you were at home. I never felt uncomfortable, and even when I did, they were there to help me and calm me down. After I finished treatment at Touchstone, I went back to my hometown and did physical, occupational, and speech therapy for 5 more months before returning back to A&M January of 2013. I graduated this past December with a university studies major, so it's very, very cool accomplishment. If I wouldn't have been pushed each and every day by Touchstone, I would still be at Touchstone. If I wouldn't have gotten out of bed, I would still be at Touchstone. But because they pushed me to do what I didn't want to, I'm here today. So